Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob. And as we say here in the Daily Blob, don't be a racist. But if you're going to be a racist, for the love of crikey, don't be an ineffective one. That's the worst thing that you can possibly do. Anyway, so I'm looking at this story today about how China is evading the AI diffusion rules. And it's one of those things that's really hard to get through my brain. I mean, you take a look at this and you think to yourself, in times like this, you could almost imagine that a Chinaman is actually a human being. I mean, we here in the United States, no, that's not actually true. But sometimes when you read these stories, you're like, wow, it's almost like they're humans. Anyways, I've been talking about this whole disaster of the U.S. basically trying to contain China for a long, long time. You had the Obama administration with something called the Pacific Pivot. There was something called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. There's the AI diffusion rule under Biden. There's the tariffs under Trump. And all of this is about containing China because we here in the United States believe that we have the right to tell another civilization that they have gone far enough. Thank you very much. If they go any further, we'll feel a tiny bit uncomfortable. So really, they just kind of need to stop. So anyways, there's this whole thing with the AI diffusion rule. To be clear, the AI diffusion rule came out under the Biden administration. I hate all these jackasses, right? Came under the Biden administration. The idea was that since AI is the most dangerous thing since nuclear weapons, blah, 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 we can't let the Chinaman have it. And so basically, he put through policies to stop NVIDIA and other GPU manufacturers from sending or selling their high-end GPUs to China. The idea being, if China can't get the high-end GPUs, then whatever, we'll be able to hold them back. The issue with this, as I've talked about before, is you have Huawei. Huawei's come out with their own GPUs that are either matching NVIDIA's GPUs just with higher electricity consumption, or they're one generation behind. Anyways, they're not that far behind. Like, even if you accept that they're behind, literally they have 2023, the equivalent of 2023 GPUs instead of having 2025 GPUs, which is not exactly like, I don't know, the home run that we're looking for. But the interesting thing, when you start thinking about AI and you start thinking about how these systems work and you start thinking about architecture, right? One of the big things I talk about when I teach technology is architecture. Basically, the problems that you need to solve for, the resources that you have, is going to determine what the system that you're going to build at the end of the day looks like. You can solve the same problem 20 different ways. You have to determine why you want to solve the problem in a particular way. So for me, again, being a Gen Xer, I came from the days of SneakerNet. Some kids out there may not have remembered SneakerNet, but before we had fancy internet connections, or even when we did, when we had a 56K connection, basically how we swapped files and that type of thing was literally to take our floppy disks from our house to our friend's house. They would copy it, and that was what was called SneakerNet, because you would walk over with your discs or whatever. Well, here's an interesting thing. In a world where you have hard drives that are 30 terabytes inside, I know it's 20 terabytes, so you can go to Seagate or whatever and buy 20 terabytes. I think you can get 30 terabytes. So here's an interesting question. In a world of 30 terabyte hard drives, where the United States is trying to restrict China's ability to access large AI models and that type of thing, what does the architecture of SneakerNet look like in this particular world? And something to be thinking about is what kind of problems are the Chinese trying to solve for. So once you have a model, once you have one of these LLMs or one of these models, right? In order to run the model, it's not, I mean, it is resource intensive, but it is, I don't know, I guess you would say reasonably resource intensive. The big resource consumption component for artificial intelligence is actually creating the models themselves, right? So basically you take all of your data, you throw that into the system, you train the model based off of that data, and then you get the file or files out. And those are easier, at least, to run on lower quality GPUs or whatever. So if you're in China and your big concern is how do you train models, you're pretty sure you can run the models fine, but the question is how do you train models if you can't get the GPUs into the system or into the country? One of the questions that can be asked is, well, why don't you just put all your data on hard drives and fly to Malaysia and train all your crap in Malaysia? Wouldn't that work? And in fact, it would work. Because guess what? Old white people in the White House. We live in a globalized world with high-speed transportation and the rest of it. And yeah, remember, boys and girls, if you're gonna be a racist, at least be effective. At least be effective. Nothing worse than a stupid Klan member. Klan members are bad. Stupid Klan members. Anyways, Chinese AI outfits smuggling suitcases full of hard drives to evade U.S. chip restrictions, training AI models in Malaysia using rented servers. And so this is a very reasonable question to ask when you think about the U.S. Trying to limit Chinese access to the ability to do things like train AI models, when you can simply put data onto drives, take those drives somewhere else in the world in order to train particular models. How effective are these AI diffusion rules actually going to be? And again, when we're looking at this, we're talking about nation state actor, China, second largest economy in the world, 4 times the population of the United States, a whole lot of that thing. Does it make sense that if our president tells them to stop, they'll just be like, sir, yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Does that make sense to anybody? Would any human society accept that? But anywho, let's see here. This is, I think it's from Tech Radar or something like that. Let's see here. Chinese AI companies are reportedly smuggling hard drives to Malaysia in order to train their AI models without technically breaking the export controls that the U.S. has placed on advanced NVIDIA chips heading into China. According to the Wall Street Journal, 4 Chinese tech workers flew in from Beijing to Kuala Lumpur, each one carrying 15 hard drives with 80 terabytes worth of data each for training an AI model. This amounts to about 4.8 petabytes of information, which is enough for several large-scale LLMs. So they put their data on the drives, 4 of them came in order to train their LLMs. This was a meticulously planned operation and took several months of preparation. Sources say that the engineers chose to fly in the data on hard drives because it would take a lot of time to transfer the data online without attracting attention. They then divvied up the hard drives between 4 passengers to avoid raising alarm bells with Malaysian customs and immigration officers. So this will be an interesting thing going into the future when you come back in the United States or you're leaving the United States or whatever, going through border control. How many hard drives is a reasonable number of hard drives for you to bring into a country? You must declare whether you're bringing 5 hard drives into the country. That's going to be a law. I put $5 on the table now. We're going to get that kind of law coming in the future. Let's see here. Fly the data in because it would take. They then divvied up the hard drives between 4 passengers to avoid raising alarm bells with Malaysian customs and immigration officers. The Chinese personnel then proceeded to a Malaysian data center where their company rented 300 NVIDIA AI servers to process the data and build the AI model. The involved companies also made some legal moves to muddy the waters. The Chinese AI company had previously used the same process to train its model using the Malaysian data center, with its Singapore-registered subsidiary signing the rent agreement. But with Singapore clamping down on AI tech exports, the Malaysian company asked its Chinese client to register locally and avoid scrutiny. And so that's basically all there is to it. It's a pretty simple story. Chinaman flies in with his bag full of hard drives, goes to the data center, trains his AI model. He has his nice little AI model, goes back to China, and basically, evades all the restrictions that are being trying to be put onto China. This is the perfect example of why I am frustrated with the AI diffusion policy. Because the fact of the matter is, I do not believe it will effectively work. One, it's going to push China in order to produce better and better GPUs to the point that they will be outcompeting us within 5 years. Within 5 years, they will be producing higher quality GPUs at a lower price point, and NVIDIA is going to be worth, whatever Intel is currently worth. Remember, Intel was an amazing company until it wasn't, right? Things can flip that quick. So one, with the AI diffusion rules, I honestly believe this is simply going to push China into a market they really didn't have a huge interest in before, and will simply push them to the forefront. The whole 9 yards. Beyond that, with the diffusion rules, this is creating so many regulations and restrictions that if I was a CTO, if I was a CEO, I was a non-American, for a non-American company, in 5 years, if I was looking at deploying Huawei AI into my infrastructure, or NVIDIA AI into my infrastructure, I would really look at my risk tolerance around U.S. regulatory environment. If I buy Huawei, simply I hand over the cash, I get the AI, that's all I have to worry about. If I buy NVIDIA, I hand over the cash, then I've got to go through a process, and then depending on whether this president is, trying to do something that day, I may or may not get my product, right? I think that's going to be a real driver for non-American companies to buy those AI products. And then until we get to that point, there's the whole question of how and if you really can contain AI. I mean, under the Biden administration, Biden was so stupid. He wasn't stupid, he was dead. A dead man can't be stupid. Anyways, the policy was so stupid. They were looking at putting export restrictions or export controls on the models. Not even GPUs. Like, however stupid putting export controls on hardware is, that is what it is. You can try. You can try. You're going to fail. You're going to fail, but you can try, right? Biden administration's policies, literally, they had so little understanding of the technology world, they were going to try to put export controls on the models themselves, files. How did that work out for the music industry and the movie industry and anybody else who basically had the value of their product in a file, right? Once it's a file, it's really easy to move and copy and paste. And again, to get something out of China, all you have to do is copy and paste it out of the United States to China once, and then they put it on a repository, and then everybody in China's got it, right? You putting export control on a model is just beyond stupid. Like, putting that on a model literally shows you don't have a damn clue about anything. Anywho, so what we're seeing now with China and these tech companies is basically they're looking at the rules, they're looking at the export controls, and they're very easily being able to get around those controls. And so with our administration, what happens if they get around the export controls? They are going to start adding more rules, more regulations, more legal warfare, which is only going to make it harder for our allies to be able to support our systems that they want to buy, which I do believe will help send our AI industry essentially into a death spiral. Our old, white, bigoted leaders are going to kill the AI industry they say is the future of our country, which is amazing, If you're going to be racist, for the love of God, be effective when you do it. Anywho, so this is what is going on. It'll be It'll be curious to see how U.S. policy goes in the future. I think we will get more draconian. A free country, a country that believes in freedom, really passes a lot of laws and regulations and demands the rest of the world dance to our particular tune. I think that is going to work out ever less effectively, especially with the other policies and things that we have going through. So I guess we will find out how this works out at the end of the day. So what do you think? What do you think about SneakerNet for AI? What do you think about if you're a Chinese engineer, and you're trying to solve the problem, you have the Silicon Valley mindset because they almost seem human. Chinaman, every once in a while, almost actually seems like a human being. So if you had a highly motivated human being in China who was an engineer of some sort, and he is or she is trying to solve a problem, if they are told this is the technology that's required to solve the problem, you cannot access that technology within your country. But you can put your data onto some kind of storage array, hop in an airplane, go somewhere else, and then you will be able to access your data. Do you believe the Chinese people are like, oh no, that's a bridge too far? I would do anything for my country, but except for take a red eye. I would do anything. I would put my life on the line for my country, but I just can't imagine taking a red eye to Malaysia. It's just they just don't have very good food on that airline, and the taxis and the Ubers from point A to point B. That's a bridge too far. Do you think that's what China's gonna do? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. SneakerNet. In the age of artificial intelligence. Anyways, don't know what else to say. See y'all later.